Well, thank you for joining us on today's Ask the Mayor. We have two special young gentlemen who are going to join us on today's show. They've been spending their summer traveling around the country doing what probably most people wouldn't think of young folks doing in the summer, driving race cars. We have some footage from the Atlanta Motor Speedway that we're going to share with you as we interview these two gentlemen. So please stay with us on location. Well, welcome back to today's show. Remember I said we were going to have a couple of racers with us today who are from here in Douglas County, and they've been racing pretty well all over the country during the summer. The first one of those fine young gentlemen that's joining us today is Sean Rayhall. Sean, thank you very much for joining me today.
Anytime.
Yes. How long have you been driving race cars?
About 7 years now. I started when I was 8 years old in go-karts and then worked my way up to formula cars and then to the national level and eventually into legend cars where I am now.
Is that right? Started in go-karts?
Go-karts at 8. We started a local track called Barnesville about an hour south of here, then eventually went to regionals, then up to nationals.
Mm-hmm. So you began to progress to a different division the
exactly.
older that you got?
Harder competition as we went up the ranks.
Oh, I bet it is, yeah.
Yes,
so
sir.
What kind of cars have you driven in your career?
I've driven Porsche 911s, Formula Fords, Formula Mazda, Formula Dodge, Formula Renault, the Legend car, which is a Yamaha 1250cc, prepared by Doug Stevens in Advanced Technology Motorsports, a lot of different kinds.
So you were driving all these cars before you had a driver's license, right?
Yeah, it still bugs me that I can't get in the street and go somewhere by myself today.
So you still don't have a driver's license?
Nope. I got about 6 more months before I get my actual license. I only got my permit.
And what are some of the speeds, the top speeds of some of the cars that you've been
I've
driving?
been 175 to 180 at Infineon, 165 to 170 at Homestead. The average speed in the Legend car is about 100 on the big tracks, but the Formula car averages at 142.
So I told our guest you've been racing in the Southeast. Infineon is in California, right?
Yeah, we've been all over the states racing.
Okay.
Infineon, Wisconsin, just about everywhere you can imagine. I've done a lot of traveling, which requires me missing a lot of school, but Airway's working with us really good with that and keeping me, since it's a career choice, they let me miss as many days as I need, as long as I keep up with the schoolwork.
Okay, so you do it on the internet, or how do you do that?
They give me my assignments before I leave. And I have 2 courses that I take online, and as long as it's finished by the time I get back in school, they're fine with it.
That's great. What do your classmates think about you racing all over the country?
They think it's awesome, but I think then again they're a little bit jealous they don't get to miss as much school as I do.
Hey, I don't blame them. I'd be jealous also if I could
Exactly.
leave work and just travel all over the place.
It's a great job.
Yeah. What are some of the racetracks that you've raced on? You mentioned a few of them already.
Well, in Georgia here we've ran at Atlanta Motor Speedway, Lanier National Speedway, and also Cordele down south, the watermelon capital. Road Atlanta is one of the road course tracks I run at. Charlotte Motor Speedway up in Lowe's is the main track we've been running at this summer with all the traveling, and we won the shootout up there, and we won the Atlanta Thursday Thunder down here. And I mean, tracks as far out as California, as we said earlier.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the shootout. Now, I read about it in a newspaper. The main thing I remember is you won $25,000.
That was actually in the Legends Million race.
Oh, it was? Okay.
But that race was phenomenal. We had people from everywhere, different countries come out. I won my division in the Young Lions Semi-Pro. And then when we went on, we had a great car in the feature for the Million in the pro race, but motor let go on us. But hopefully next year we'll be back there to wrap up the big prize.
Okay. So in addition to driving these cars, do you do any of the work or maintenance, or how do you keep your cars up? And
Doug Stevens works mainly on the setup of the car. He leaves the oil changes and the keeping up of the car and everything else to me. He's kind of taught me, and his dad and everyone at the shop has also worked on me being able to work on the car myself. That way, the days he isn't at the racetrack, I know what to do to make myself go faster.
Okay. So you were driving a Legend car when you won this race in Charlotte, I guess it was, right?
Yes, sir.
And for our audience that may not know a lot about automobile racing, tell us what a legend car is.
A legend car is basically an older design of an older car. It's a 34 coupe Ford and 1250cc Yamaha motor in it with about 140 horsepower at max, and we average 90 to 100 miles an hour, and it's a good little car. It's fun, it's affordable at this point, and First Action Services gave me a great car all year.
And do you have any particular things that you like in your engine? If so, you want to reveal any of your secrets to our audience?
You know, it's not that big of a secret. You can give me pretty much an engine with a lot of bottom end or an engine with a lot of top speed that I can go fast with. It just really depends on the type of track and the type of conditions on that day.
I see. So do you have different engines for different tracks?
No, at the moment we got one bought up last weekend from someone who thought that motor was better than theirs, but it really just depends. We can get any motor from 600 and go fast with it.
Okay, so they have some type of claim rule that for a certain amount of money,
Exactly.
fellow drivers
we had a driver put down $5,700 this weekend and take my motor home with them, and we said go for it. It was our worst motor.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you have to give up the engine if
they get 3 motor claims a year, and technically the rules say you can't do it out of spite, even though that's what was done this weekend. But you know, they can keep buying them up. We get a fresh motor from 600 and go just as fast. Doesn't change a thing.
So you buy one cheaper than the $5,700.
Exactly.
So you're making money not only winning races,
just sitting back,
selling
smiling
your
and
parts.
laughing.
Oh, that is great. Now, I understand not only are you driving legend cars, but it sounds like to me you're kind of preparing yourself for the future, and you're doing some road racing. Is that?
Well, I started out in road racing, and at first that was my passion until I got into legend cars and saw what it really was about. Now my dream is to go to Cup. But with all the diversity from the road course racing to the legends and different style tracks is only going to help me if I do make it one day to NASCAR like my dream. Then when I go to the road course, I have more experience than most of the drivers that just ran on ovals their whole life.
Well, and when I was reading your bio and some information about you, I noticed that. I noticed you were competing on all kinds of tracks. And I watch racing on TV, and I see those guys actually racing on road courses and circle tracks and other kind of tracks. And I kind of figured you were preparing yourself to be a well-rounded race car driver, which I assume is what these big Winston Cup teams are looking for.
They're mainly looking for having everything, the whole package. You got to be good in front of a camera, you got to be a wheelman when you're in the car, and you got to be good with the fans. And you see a lot of good drivers, you see a lot of people that are good with the fans, and then you see a lot of people that are good with the camera, but to put all of it together is difficult.
Sure. I would imagine with all of your success, and you've had phenomenal success, because I read the articles in the newspaper, and anyone who reads the Sentinel, you're pretty well in there every week, winning somewhere. And with that kind of success, are some of the large racing teams already talking to you about the future and what opportunities might be available?
Well, right now we got pretty much one more step, and that's ARCA. Once I can prove myself in ARCA, then we'll have more options from racing teams coming our way. We're looking for funding. I'm actually not old enough for it right now. I got to be 16. And next year we're going to be looking for some funding to go off and do 3 or 4 races to prove myself and show them that I can do the same thing in a big car.
All right, you mentioned that you're going ARCA racing. That's your long-range goal, and it's the next step to get to the Winston Cup. Well, it's not Winston Cup now. What do they call it?
It's the Nextel Cup
Nextel Cup Series now. That's the next step for you to get to that plateau. But for our audience, what are your immediate plans? Where are you going to be racing over the next few weeks or a few months?
You know, we have, in the next few weeks, we have 3 championships that I can obtain. First, we have the 2 Pro Series races, one at Brainerd in Minnesota and the next in Virginia International Raceway in Virginia. Then later on that month, we got the national championships up at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Then following that, we have the Legends National Championship at the national race in Langley, Virginia.
So you're going to be trying to win a couple of championships in SCCA, which is Sports Car Club of America. You're going to be trying to win the national championship in legend cars.
Correct.
All at the same time.
All in the same month.
Wow. Is that a scheduling problem, getting from one location to the other?
It's really close up in there, but Airway's working with me once again on the school, so it really isn't a problem.
Okay. Do you find yourself leaving one racetrack, going to the other, or are you coming back to Douglas County between each of those?
Well, all the time I'm going from racetrack to racetrack. This summer was a perfect example when I was in Charlotte Monday and Tuesday, then back to Atlanta Motor Speedway Wednesdays and Thursdays without even seeing my own bed. But, you know, I'll be back in Douglasville for part of it for a few days just to make sure I can come get all my schoolwork to do on the road again, but mainly just spending all my time at the racetrack.
Well, I admire you. That's quite a schedule to keep up with.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Do you already have some sponsors you'd like to mention today that have helped you with your racing thus far?
First Action Services has been behind me all year long. Working through my dad and working with Advanced Technology Motorsports with Doug Stevens. All these people have kind of put together a deal for me to keep going to the racetrack every week.
Okay. What do you think the future holds for Sean Rayhall?
Hopefully NASCAR, that's the dream, and I think if I work hard enough and keep my head down, I'll make it.
You will. I can assure you. I've read a lot of information about you, and those of us here in Douglas County are very proud of your accomplishments, and we appreciate you joining us on today's program.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sean Rayhall. I'm down here at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the garage. This is where most of the time of my summer's been spent, here in Charlotte Motor Speedway up in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been racing since I was 8 years old. I started in go-karts, eventually moved up to cars when I was 12 at a young age, younger than most. Ran the Skip Barber Series in Formula Cars and road racing, then started Legends about 6 to 8 months ago, and been loving it ever since. We've done really well in this past year and won a lot. We're winning this championship down at the Thursday Thunder, winning the championship in Charlotte, and hopefully trying to wrap it up tonight. Some of the highlights of my season have been the Million in Charlotte, North Carolina, and all the racing at Lowe's. I've had 4 wins in that, and then the Million race in Young Lions. I won that, winning $25,000, my biggest paycheck in my career. Just racing up there has been so awesome. The competition up there is incredible. I run a 34 Ford Coupe. It's just a driver preference, really, whether you run the Coupe, the sedan, or the Chevy. The Chevy's more just look preference, but there's a difference between the sedan and the Coupe and handling, and I like getting up on the wheel just a little bit more, and that's why I drive a Coupe. I drive for Doug Stevens with Advanced Technology Motorsports. I've been with him since the get-go in Legend Cars, and he's brought me nothing but success. He's always given me a great car and great setup. Coaching-wise, he's worked with me so well, and we work as a great team together. And I couldn't ask for more out of a crew chief. Many of the people in this pit area are well-liked family. We got Taylor Hull, Austin Hill, and Mason Massey, also out of Douglasville, Winston area, that I'm friends with at home, not only at the racetrack. And them racing together, and the camaraderie and all the competition is great too, because racing isn't something that you have friends that do often. Having people out of Douglasville that you can be close with and also come to the racetrack with is a great feeling. All I gotta do is finish this race tonight. I'm ready to take that checker flag and do the donuts after the finish.
Well, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that footage from Atlanta Motor Speedway. We have with us today another very special guest who's been racing up and down the East Coast and all over the country this summer, Mason Massey. Mason, thank you very much for joining me today. I've been reading about you in the newspaper and keeping up with you for a number of years, and you're doing what a lot of young gentlemen would like to be doing today, and that's living the American dream. Mm-hmm. And I know that you've been racing all over the country, and you probably don't have a driver's license yet,
no,
right?
Yet.
Yet you're running cars in excess of, how fast do you go?
Well, about the fastest is around 100.
100 miles an hour. And you're how old?
13 years old.
13. How many 13-year-old young gentlemen do we know that can drive 100 miles an hour? Probably not very many of them, and we congratulate you on all your successes. What kind of cars have you been driving? Tell us about your racing.
First, I drove quarter midgets, and I raced them about 4 years. And after that, I drove bandoleros and raced them for about 4 years. And this will be my third season in legend cars.
Okay, so you drove these little bitty, kind of like a go-kart initially to start with, and
Yes,
then
sir.
the Bandoleros are a little bit larger car with a body on them, and the legend cars are the professional-made, real race cars. Yeah. Well, where have you been racing these cars? What racetracks?
Well, all over the Southeast, in Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Indiana, and all of them. So.
Okay. Tell us about some of those racetracks and what your favorite racetrack is and why it's your favorite.
My favorite is Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's just little and tight. Some pretty good racing there.
So it takes a lot of precision to drive at that particular racetrack. How many cars do you typically have in a race?
Well, about an average is about 15.
15 cars. And for those who have not been to that racetrack, as you said, it's a relatively small racetrack with 15 cars. It's probably like driving down the interstate with a few cars going 100 miles an hour, I guess, isn't it?
It is.
Well, that's great. Tell us about your legend car. A little bit about your car and do you work on the car yourself?
Well, I do sometimes, but I have people who help us on it.
Okay. And your car, I assume you're in school, right? So you have to worry about doing your homework and going to school, and at the same time you're racing. How do you fit all of that in?
Well, I'm actually homeschooled, so I do most of it on the road.
You do most of your homework on the road, so that gives you the ability to travel and go basically all over the country. What's one of your most memorable racing events that you've had?
When I was in the Bandoleros, I was 11, and I won the Thursday Thunder Championship.
All right. And that was at Charlotte or
Atlanta Motor Speedway.
here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Do those races
sir.
pay money? Do you actually win money?
Well, at my age, I don't, but when I get older, I will.
And that's going to help pay for all the expenses it takes to travel all over the country. Looking forward in your future, what do you see as far as racing? What do you going to drive a different kind of car in the future? Or?
Hopefully. Well, hopefully next will be a asphalt late model, and well, hopefully in the future NASCAR.
NASCAR.
Hopefully.
Now, are there these big racing teams? I would imagine with your success and how well you're doing and all the races that you're winning, you're probably catching a lot of those folks' eye. Have any of those been talking to you without revealing any secrets here on who may be trying to get you to drive for them at some point in time? Are they beginning to call you up, say things to you or anything like that?
Well, I hadn't had any, but hopefully, like, when I get older, I will.
Yeah, I would imagine with the economy and things like that, they're beginning to kind of probably scale back a little bit. But so you aspire to race with the Dale Earnhardts and all the big guys at some point in time. Have you had an opportunity to race on some of those larger racetracks?
I have the biggest one is about a 4/10 of a mile, and well, at that one I hit about 100 miles an hour.
My goodness. And I read in the paper where you were just up in Charlotte at a big race, and they called it the $1 million race or something like that. That had to be exciting.
Well, it was. We had to race in the rain, but it was okay.
Was that new to you, racing in the rain? Or do legend car races typically race in the rain?
That's my second time, and well, it's really hard.
I bet it is. So you were putting different kind of tires on your car to race in the rain?
Yes, sir.
Do your cars have windshield wipers?
No.
So you run fast enough to blow the
Yeah.
to blow the rain off?
I guess so.
I see. Do you have any problem in racing in the rain where your windshields kind of fog up or something like that?
I do. But I mean, I keep on racing.
Yeah.
But
It makes it very difficult, I would imagine, when you're used to racing on a dry surface and then you're trying to race in the rain.
hmm
You know, you mentioned racing in the rain, and it was $1 million race. How many cars did they have in that race, and how did you do?
Well, I had around 85, and I qualified 5th, and I finished 10th in the main event.
Wow, that's terrific.
Thank you.
And did you get paid for that?
About $1,800.
Hey, that's good money. That helped pay some of the expenses and things like that.
Mhm.
Now, did they start all 85 of those cars in the race?
I think they started around 30.
So they qualify them, and the fastest 30 get to race, and you qualified 10th out of 5th out of all of those cars. That's amazing.
Sir.
And then you had to race in the rain
Yeah.
because you're not familiar with racing in the rain.
Mhm.
Well, what does the future hold for Mason Massey? What I guess this is a two-part question. What do we see in the immediate future, and then maybe long range?
I'll be moving up, and just hopefully I can race for someone else.
Okay, and then you're going to go to the Asphalt Late Model Series and move on up from there. Anything you'd like to tell our audience before? I know you've got a lot of fans out there. How about sponsors? Any sponsors that we need to say thank you to today for helping you?
Advanced Auto Parts, Ren's Body Shop, and Ideal Restorations, and West Georgia Tire.
They all local folks, and it takes all of them, I know, to make a good race team like you obviously have. Well, thank you for being with us today. It was certainly my pleasure talking with you, and I wish you luck as you continue to move on up the ladder in your racing career. We'll be reading about you in the newspaper and watching for you on TV.
Okay.
And thank you for joining us on today's Ask the Mayor program.
Hey, I'm Mason Massey, and we're at Atlanta Motor Speedway today. And I drive the car number 15. I've been racing since I was about 5 years old. I like it a lot. As a racer, I have to focus and think the whole time, and be patient, and worry about finishing. It's a big family sport. My whole family's here today, and most of the drivers' families are here, and it's a lot of fun. Today, we're at the AMS, getting it all ready, and just changing tires and bolting it, and I get it ready for the final race of the season. I'll get my dad to tell us about the car today.
All right, what you have here is our Legend car. This is our primary car here, and it's our backup car over here. And the Legend cars, what they are is like a spec series type of racing, to where all the drivers have to use the same engine, the same type of shocks, the same tire. So it kind of keeps everybody on a level playing field as far as the competition level. You know, you can work on the car, set it up, to tweak it different ways, to work different ways at different tracks, as far as the percentages and ride heights and air pressures and stuff like that. And it varies from track to track. You also change the rear gear in the cars from time to time. When you go to different tracks, you know, different gears work better at different tracks. And they try to keep it a spec series with everybody on the same engine, shocks, and tires, to keep it kind of like a level playing field for everyone, you know, so somebody can't go out and buy a $4,000 pair of shocks. Instead, everybody's running a $400 set of shocks for all four of them. Everybody's on the same tire. And as far as our car here, everybody runs a Yamaha motorcycle engine. It's a 1250cc. They average about 135 horsepower. And top speeds in these cars vary from track to track. The bigger, faster tracks that Mason races on, they get up to around 95 to 98 miles an hour. They're averaging around 90 miles an hour per lap, average speed. And that'd be like a high-banked 3/8 or 4/10 of a mile racetrack. The flat tracks, like we're racing here at Atlanta Motor Speedway and Charlotte Motor Speedway, they're flatter and smaller tracks, therefore you don't run as fast. They average in the neighborhood of 65 to 70. Body style, and it's only the body style, nothing else, but this is a 34 Ford Coupe, and that's where the term legend comes from the older style cars. You have coupes, sedans. Mason likes the coupe body style better, and the chassis style, it seems to handle better for him as far as driving. As you can see, we have a mesh net right here on the windshield that keeps any debris or objects or whatever flying in the windshield and hitting him in the face. Inside the car here, we run a Butler built seat, which is the exact seat like the NASCAR drivers wear. Mason has been measured like 7 different places, and these seats are custom built for each driver. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to manufacture one, and fortunately for us, Butler Build is a great sponsor, and they really help us out a lot on our seats. When he's in the car racing, he obviously wears a helmet, and he also wears a Hans device, which is a head and neck restraint system, and it keeps you from breaking the back of your neck when you hit a wall at a real high speed. They also wear a full 100% Nomex fire suit, and obviously long sleeve, long legs, and they wear fireproof shoes and also fireproof gloves. So they're pretty much covered from their toes to their head and every body part where no skin's exposed. Fortunately, we haven't had any fire situations, hope we never do. But in case something like that were to arise, he's pretty much covered in that situation too. All right, I'm going to continue working on the car and getting it ready to go race. I hope we have a good race. Take care of the car and have good luck.
Hi, my name's Taylor Hull. I'm 21 years old. We're at Atlanta Motor Speedway Championship night for Thursday Thunder. We've had a 10-week series, and this is the culmination race here. We've been running a 10-week series here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, earning points in each of the 10 weeks. The winner gets 100 points, 97, 94, and so on. We're sitting second in points in the Pro Division right now, 32 points back. Outside chance at winning, probably not, but a couple of other guys from Douglasville have a real good chance. Sean Rayhall's leading his points, and I think Mason's second in his, so that'll be a neat deal, seeing some local guys do really well, and second place is still pretty respectable. We're thrilled with that. We've just finished getting ready for tonight's race. We've put new tires on, changed the gear from linear. We've run linear on Saturday night and have to change the rear end to come up here for Thursdays. Put new tires on, clean the carburetors, nut and bolted the car. A lot of different things we have to do. Check the belts, all the safety stuff. Practiced out here Wednesday night and had a pretty successful run. We're pretty optimistic about tonight. There's a lot of other things you have to do. Checking the nuts and bolts in the seat, checking to make sure there's no tears in the belts. Have to change tires. Usually tires don't last very long. Nut and bolt in the car. Have to torque the lugs. Don't want any wheels falling off. We've had a few racers have that happen this season. Make sure all the body panels are on good, and go through a little pre-tech inspection. All the tech guys want to make sure everybody's equal so we can all have good racing. I also work here at the racetrack at Atlanta Motor Speedway in the Legend shop just over in the other garage. We also prepare Ed Clark, your president of the racetrack's car for the Masters division. He also sometimes runs roadsters as well as me. We have a few other customers, Mike Kennedy and Chris Holcomb and Mark Swan. Those are three of our Legends customers, and hoping to get some more out for next season. Y'all make sure and come out and watch us, and maybe get in a Legends car yourself. As you can tell, it's getting noisy, getting busy. About time for practice. I got to run back over to the garage and help a guy put an engine in, but appreciate y'all for tuning in.